Hey everybody, welcome to this week's episode of Buttercupp at Home. We have the tremendous privilege of sitting down with Dave Herrell, who is the president and CEO of Visit Quad Cities. Thanks for being on the podcast, man.
Well, thanks for having me. Look forward to it.
This is great. If you want to know what's happening in the Quad Cities, Dave and his team, I think, is the go-to spot, the go-to website. If you don't know about Visit Quad Cities, it's the official destination management and marketing organization. I pulled this right from their website. Organization management for the region. So unpack that for us. What does all that mean, and what happens in the day-to-day?
Well, I think really the key word is tourism. I think our focus is all things in and around the visitor economy. And so our pillars are grounded in destination marketing, tourism development, and visitor experience. So for people that might not be too familiar with what Visit Quad Cities does, I think everybody understands that powerful world and word of travel and tourism. So if it is visitor centric faced, we are usually the organization either driving it or bringing all of the right mechanics together to make it happen.
Yeah, that's so good. So you originally, when did you start at Visit Quad Cities and come to the Quad Cities? Because one thing that's been great, just that I've heard from so many people, is like Dave Herrell comes up in a conversation. I was talking with Brandy.
Hopefully
this is great. Brandy Vandewally from Skeleton Key, and just how much, and numerous people, of just how much that you just have fallen in love with the Quad Cities, like us, who have lived here our entire lives, and that's so wonderful. How'd you get here?
So
it's been a while too.
I grew up in St. Louis, but spent the majority of my career in Nashville, Tennessee, and then was living in Jacksonville, Florida, and I was running the Office of Sports and Entertainment, and it was in the public sector. I was looking to get back into the private nonprofit world and got connected to a global search firm called Searchwide, and they were steering me towards an opportunity in Miami. And nothing against Miami, but got little kiddos at home, and my wife's from Kentucky, and we're a little bit more grounded in Midwestern values, Southern values. And as we were having the conversation about Miami, I said, just not really feeling it. And they said, well, what do you know about the Quad Cities? And I said, I know where it is.
Wow, you actually knew where it was.
That's awesome.
And so that was like the first sort of intro to the search firm that I've been working with on the value of the Quad Cities, where it's been from a destination perspective, the goals and objectives by my board and what they were hoping to achieve, and hopefully a direction for the future. So that started a couple-month conversation with the search committee, which made it happen. And so I've been here now literally a week before Thanksgiving of 2018. The moving truck was unloading as a blinding snowstorm was hitting, and we were moving from Ponte Vedra, Florida. And Connie was a little challenged with that. But a few years later, we really have come to enjoy the Quad Cities, what it stands for, its quirkiness, the people that are here, and quite frankly, the potential of what we could do from a tourism perspective.
Yeah, I think it totally. We just keep getting better, which is so great. And a couple of things that talk about the ale trail and the coffee trail. There's some of the things that you guys have,
and RegBri too,
and RegBri. Some really great initiatives and things that have started that just connect our community and kind of goes with that your whole tag here, that people, partnerships, and personality. So.
Yeah, well, I think what people don't realize a lot of times is communities are consumable brands, and that's how you need to treat them. No different than what you're doing here with your amazing businesses that you all own and operate. People want to be emotionally connected to a brand, and the Quad Cities is a brand, and brands are organic, and they're going to evolve. Specifically as it relates to like visitor experience, we're trying to create these products, right? You want to have tourism products. So extensions like the ale trail and the coffee trail and the public art trail and all of these things are essentially ways that visitors can consume the Quad Cities in a meaningful and dynamic way. But also our number one customer, and a lot of people don't realize this, are locals. We want residents to really get connected and fall in love with the place that they live. And if they do, they're going to help really be those ambassadors, those salespeople for us to move the needle. And that's all about community culture. Like you got to have a positive culture. You got to have people kind of rowing in the boat together, because if you don't, then you're not going to be successful in tourism. You can't have people coming into your community engaging with people that live here. And if they say, hey, what is there to do? I'm from, the Chicago suburbs. And like, well, there's nothing to do here. Or why would you come here? That's not a really good customer service delivery. No different than somebody walking in here and how you make them feel. Yeah. So much of what we do is thinking through product experience, but then also like how people feel about the Quad Cities. Because if they feel this positive energy, then that hopefully will pay, dividends for either repeat visitors, tourism, growth, brand visibility. And a lot of times, and again, you all are great marketers, so you understand this, you got to get people talking about you.
Yeah.
You have to get that top of mind awareness. And so if they're not talking about you, well, that's highly problematic to operating a brand. And so it is a 365-day process. And so for us, communities are consumable brands, treat them as such, and develop them in terms of like creating unique products and those experiences along the way that hopefully will connect visitors and connect residents with what you're trying to do.
Well, and how important do you feel like when you're coming up with the ale trail or different things like that, how important is it to find those local small businesses? Like, how does that play into that branding? I think that's interesting I've never thought of it that way. But, we always say when we go to visit another town, we're not looking to find where's their Target. Does their Target look like our Target?
Right,
You're probably going to end up there. I mean, you need Target, but you're really looking for those local experiences. So how do you guys like highlight local businesses? How do you work with that to draw in those,
It's a great
visitors?
question, Jennifer. I think to your point, people are drawn to authenticity. They're not drawn to, Applebee's. I mean, yes, they might be, or Target, but when they are traveling, they really want to experience like a local does. They want to find those amazing, like off the beaten path places that they can experience. And if you don't have those in your community, then it's going to be a very watered down product experience. So small business is critical. Local restaurants, critical. You can run the gamut on like trying to create a portfolio and a package to really accentuate like why people want to come to your market. And it's all about brand, differentiation. And then how do you consume that as a consumer that's thinking about either going to the Quad Cities or Madison, Wisconsin, or Dubuque or St. Louis? I mean, pick your market. What are those things that are going to differentiate, your brand? And so whether it's, materials, publications, you mentioned our website, which is a comprehensive resource for that. Social media, all of the various platforms that we have to tell the story of the Quad Cities, and we're storytellers. That's something that we, firmly believe in. But if you don't have this amazing portfolio of diverse experiences with authenticity, you're not going to be able to get people to, one, consider coming to your community. Secondly, trying to figure out a way to convert them so that they make a decision to come here. And then lastly, how do you get them to become a repeat customer?
Yeah.
So when they come here, their experience is so off the charts. They're like, yeah, we've been to a lot of places, but boy, we really connected with the Quad Cities, and we're unpacking some things every time that we go back that maybe we didn't get to experience in that day and a half that we were there, those 2 days, because it's quick, right? It's not always like people going for a week. I mean, we're not really a week-long kind of destination. We don't have beaches. We don't have the mouse. We don't have a lot of these things. So we got to get people in quick hits and make sure that when they're here, that first impression is phenomenal, and then that last impression is even stronger. That way we can just get them to come back time and time again.
Yeah, that's exactly our strategy for this location that we're sitting in. With the Betplex right here, you have these moms and kids they're just waiting for the next game, and we're like, how can we add value to them by giving them an experience and giving them a great time here in the Quad Cities? And It's just that like values of, and you guys are just cheerleaders for what we're doing, and we appreciate that immensely.
Well, thank you. We appreciate it. I mean, we take it very seriously. I mean, tourism and destination marketing, it's a science. It's also an art form, and it's a relationship business. I mean, we want you all to be uberly successful. If you're successful, then we're successful. And what people don't realize in our space, like we're trying to drive these non-resident revenues. So when people come into the TBK Bank Sports Complex and they're here or wherever they are, LeClaire, downtown Davenport, Moline, Rock Island, pick your market, those non-resident revenues are so vitally important because they're being reinvested into quality of life and quality of place. So if you have more people coming into the Quad Cities, guess what? You're driving more revenue. And it's not just hotel motel tax revenue. It's hotels, and it's restaurants, and it could be gaming, and it can be small business retail. It can be, hey, I got to stop and get some gas. All of these things are producing tax revenue that we need. And if we're generating more and more of that, then hopefully that's going to be reinvested on the backside to make the Quad Cities a stronger place to live. And we always say if you want to build a destination that people want to live in, you got to build a destination that people want to visit.
Yeah.
And if you can do that, that's going to create an immense value prop for your community. And it's a very competitive space. It is not easy. And so for us, we're competing with markets all around the United States. There are literally 37 destination marketing organizations in the state of Illinois, and there's 21 in Iowa alone. And then you take that nationwide, and it's a highly competitive space. And so we're trying to figure out ways every day to get people to come here. But it's a team thing, right? If we're not all in this together as a community, then we're going to get sunk. And so that's why it's critical that platforms like this, where we can talk about the value and the importance of tourism, hopefully people will engage with that and go, okay, like I get it. So when people are coming here, I better put my best face forward and talk about how great this place is.
Yeah.
I love that you said that, because that was my question was going to be, why is tourism even important to where you live? Who even cares about that, and what does it do for your community? So you kind of answered that question, but what are some projects that you're working on to actively kind of cultivate that, and what kind of new things are you working on?
There's a variety of things. I think first, if you look at like the value of like what people can save on their taxes just through what we're generating, it's about $1,400 a year.
Wow.
Okay, that's just a good round number. But if you look at things like our tourism master plan and that destination vision and long range strategy for where we want to take the region from a tourism perspective, it's critically important that those 17 recommendations and 92 action items are realized. That is going to strengthen our market. One of those things in there, we talk about resident pride. Okay. And so literally, like, not a very good percentage of people that live here are willing to brag about living in the Quad Cities. So that braggability factor,
We will.
Yeah.
we got to make sure that we're constantly bragging. And there's nothing wrong with that. Like, you get on the rooftops, you talk about how great this place is. We are really excited about our Certified Tourism Ambassador program. That's a great way for small business, for people that are kind of frontline with visitors coming in to engage with the program, that hopefully they're learning about the Quad Cities, how to sell it. We always say kind of how to sell it and how to sling it. But then also it's a workforce thing too. So the CTA program, there's only about 30 destinations around the United States that offer this program. And we're the only one in the state of Iowa and the only one in the state of Illinois that has this program. And so we've got 100 CTAs that are part of that. Anybody can do it. Like
That's what I was going to say. I've never even heard of that. That's awesome.
Anybody can do it.
Okay.
And it's not only fun, but I think it's a way that you can sort of kind of kindle that love affair that you have with your community by learning about like, why is the Quad Cities special? And then hopefully how to market it, and how to have that service delivery with the people that are coming in here. So it's a really vitally important program that we just love to share with people, and it's going to be something that we're going to continue to grow.
That's awesome.
And that's right on your website too,
It is,
right?
yeah.
They wanna do that.
Yeah.
Because
That was a selfish plug for the website, which
I
we're
love
trying to
it.
drive everybody there.
No, that's great. No, I love it because as I was prepping for the podcast and everything, actually that's when I had stumbled on it, and so that's fantastic. And I was going to talk with you after the podcast and say, hey, we need to be doing this.
Yeah, for sure.
And even the name of our podcast, of Buttercupp at Home, it's not about our house; it's about the Quad Cities.
That's right.
It's about here. So speaking of here, there's so many cool things that are coming to the Quad Cities that you guys are helping us to be able to participate in. So talk about those events, things that are coming, maybe drop some nuggets of some fun
sure.
things that are to come.
Well, I think, so much of what we do is behind the scenes. I think people will gravitate towards some of the bigger things that happen in the marketplace or things that we're trying to support. But that Monday through Friday travel is really critical. So those meetings, conventions, conferences, all of those things are just vitally important to the region. Next week is National Travel and Tourism Week, so we're really excited about that because we can highlight all the great things that tourism means to our community. For the first time in the history of the Quad Cities, we're going to host the NAIA Women's Golf Championship at TPC Deer Run. So we'll have 156 of the best student athletes from all over the United States competing
awesome.
For a championship. And what's unique about that, like everybody talks about workforce and talent, wouldn't you want to connect with 156 of high-performing student athletes that are thinking about moving, taking that first job, maybe connecting with the community? When we do these things, we really talk about how tourism can lead to talent. The Missouri Valley Women's Basketball Tournament, same thing. It's like when that comes into the marketplace and you get all these member institutions from all over the Midwest, what are we doing to galvanize relationships with those university presidents to try to drive talent? So we're hosting that. Next week, we're going to announce the largest convention that we've had in the Quad Cities in more than a decade. So I'll tease that out a little bit. It's going to literally take up over 3,000 hotel room nights in the Quad Cities, and we've got 6,500 hotel rooms in the QC. Wow. And so literally about half, which it makes it considered a citywide event. And then, this July, not only, amazing things like John Deere Classic and Quad City Times Big 7, but we're going to host the 50th anniversary of Ragbri, which, 1973, it started here in Davenport. And so we're going to be the in town July 29th. And to have that 50th here is a big deal. We'll need a lot of volunteers. We'll need a lot of community energy to come out. Our theme is Be Bold, Ride Gold, because it's the 50th anniversary.
Nice. Yeah.
And we want to paint the town gold.
Cool.
When I say the town, that means like the broader Quad Cities, region, because there's literally going to be, probably anywhere in upwards of 25 to 30,000 participants from every single state in the United States and 17 foreign countries that are going to come into the Quad Cities. How we make these people feel about that experience. Now, they're not going to be here long, but that's okay, because that brand notoriety that we're getting by hosting one of the largest events in the United States and really the largest ride from a cycling perspective in the world is a big deal, and it's a regional event. Davenport gets to be the dip site, and that's certainly exciting. But this is a regional opportunity for us to leverage.
Yeah, and you hope people will come back. So you mentioned that you're not from here originally.
Right.
So tell us, what is your favorite thing about the Quad Cities?
Oh my gosh!
If you could just
You're
have
putting
one
me on
favorite.
the spot, sister.
Just
that's a
some
tough.
favorite thing. Maybe not the favorite, but just something that you love.
What I really like, and I know it sounds probably a little cliche, but I love connecting with the river because it is a world-renowned destination in itself, and it's so important to what we do. And I love the fact that I can walk, ride a bike across the I-74 bridge, which we're the only 3 or 4 interstate systems in the U.S. that has a pedestrian friendly access.
Yeah.
So that is that's not an oddity. That's a huge opportunity for us when people are connecting with the Quad Cities. So I love the fact that we've got this amazing river, which sometimes gives us some challenges, but it is our world our world renowned asset. I love our downtowns. I love the fact that each one has like its own rhythm and tone and uniqueness. It's kind of like the boroughs of New York, like you're a New Yorker, but boy, like Brooklyn looks incredibly different than the Bronx and Manhattan and Queens, and that's what the Quad Cities has to offer. I think our culinary scene continues to get stronger, by the day. I think we've got this amazing, creative energy, which is one of our brand pillars. I think the fact that our art scene, live theater, music, all of these things are really special. And, we were talking about the Ale Trail a little while ago. I mean, I love the Ale Trail. The fact that we've got 17 or 18 microbreweries, I would put them up against anybody in the U.S. I mean, that's something that is a brand differentiator for us. And if you think about what's happening in the marketplace, not only do you have like the I-74 development, so you're going to see some progress with downtown Moline, a completely reimagined, riverfront. Bettendorf's going to go through the same thing, so that project is going to come online. Look at out here with the TBK Bank Sports Complex neighborhood. In literally 4 years, none of this was out here except for the facility. And think about the surrounding property. And so the next 20 years, incredibly exciting.
Yeah.
East Moline. Look what's happening in East Moline and that revitalization for what's happening not only like on the river, but over in their downtown. You're going to see some amazing things happening. Downtown Davenport, Destination Iowa investment and what that's going to mean to that riverfront, something they've been talking about for years and years, is now going to come online with this amazing investment from not only the city, but what the Figge Art Museum is doing. Like, there's a lot of positive momentum in each one of our communities. And when we talk about the communities of the Quad Cities, it's not the five. There are literally 58 communities within our regional destination, and every one of them has something to offer. And so we all need to remember that. We also need to remember that being this drive-through destination, you can get to anywhere in the Quad Cities in less than 20 minutes.
Right.
Yeah.
There is not a lot of communities that can boast that. And so that probably doesn't answer your question, but it maybe gives you a little bit of frame for how I think about the Quad Cities.
I love that. That's wonderful. That's what, and you're so right just about the culinary, especially, Casey and I talk all the time. Like, our big thing when we go out on date night is we always want to try a new restaurant.
Oh, cool.
And like, how many communities can you live in that you can say that you can go to a new place every time, you go out on a weekly date, we can try somewhere new or a new menu or something. And just in the 30 years that we've been together, it's just incredible how much the Quad Cities has just, expanded and grown. And
well, I think we're evolving,
much,
Jennifer.
yeah.
And I think the thing that I think you can help us with platforms like this, and when you're engaging with your customers, there's something unique in each one of our communities. I think Quad citizens have a tendency to say, okay, I'm in my bubble. I'm staying in my bubble. and the reality is, like, you can get anywhere here very quickly. And when transplants move here or when visitors come here, they do not know borders. In fact, the only people that really know the borders are people that are either from here or sometimes in the public sector. And I think what's unique is visitors, they don't care. They just want good stuff.
Yeah.
Like, that's what they're drawn to. And a lot of times when we're dealing with people, clients, it could be like a conference or a convention or consultants or you name it. They're like, hey, where am I right now? Am I in downtown Davenport? No, you're actually, you're in Rock Island. Oh, okay. And then where, like LeClaire, like, they don't care.
Right.
They just want nice things. So if we can focus on that from a destination development perspective and think about those opportunities to create that authenticity and that uniqueness, that's what's going to create value over time and make us a place that'll be very special.
I love that you said that too. So my parents were not from here originally. Casey's were. So he never ever came over to the Illinois side. Whereas my
Growing
parents,
up.
growing up, his parents.
Yeah, you better qualify that, pal.
I know.
Hey,
She's selling you out
We are all
on
over
your
the Quad
own
Cities.
podcast.
No. So when he was growing up, like it was a huge deal for them to cross the bridge, like to go to dinner or something. Whereas my parents were not from here. Chicago area, it was no big deal. We would go wherever they wanted to go. And that has just been one of the most just crazy things to me about the Quad Cities is that people act like the bridge is like a fence, like you can't cross it.
No.
But there's so much to offer, and that's such a good point that when people come, they don't think anything of driving across the bridge. It's 20 minutes to a good restaurant. Let's go.
Yeah, we create these customized itineraries, and a lot of people don't realize that. And then we do a lot of things where people are coming in to our on-premise like destination centers, whether it's Union Station, Moline, et cetera, and they're like, hey, we had a couple that came in from Eau Claire, Wisconsin, and they just literally popped in. They're like, what do we do?
That's awesome.
And so we'll sit there and we'll talk about things like, okay, well, first, what do you like to do?
Yeah.
You know, what's your jam? Give us a feel for that. And then we can literally come up with like a quick little package. And the thing that everybody needs to remember, it might not be 100 things because there's hundreds and hundreds, but we might give them little snippets.
Right.
Yeah. We could say, okay, like you like craft cocktails. Well, head up to LeClaire and hit up the distillery. Go see Ryan and Garrett and that crew and have a drink. And then, walk down and hit some of the shops there. And if you want to grab a bite to eat and you want to have a walkable, experience and want to go to downtown Davenport and hit up Half Nelson and when you get there, order this.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And then when you're done there, maybe go over to Devon's if you want to see that, or hit the rooftop at Up Bar, or walk across the I-74 and go to the Oculus and get that selfie. Go to Rock Island, walk around, experience like the Blackhawk or Hauberg or all of these. Like you can start going through this whole like experiential story of like all of the things here. And you can give people some pretty unique opportunities for them to engage, which doesn't have to be this watered down, oh my gosh, there's so much to do. Like just go somewhere. No, give them some snippets. Let them get a feel for it, and I guarantee you what's unique about the Quad Cities is people don't necessarily have a negative perception of the Quad Cities or a positive perception of the Quad Cities if they've never been here. When they come here, that favorable percentage goes up to like 70%. So our challenge is, how do you get people here?
Yeah.
Once they come here, they're like, oh wow, my older brother's from Southern California, and he's got a daughter that's living in Chicago, and we grew up in St. Louis, but we had never been here. And he was here last year. He's like, I had no idea.
Yeah.
And he goes, this is unbelievable. Like I had no frame of reference, and doing these things and kind of experience it, like you have like this little hidden gem here. It's like a best kept secret. So our job at Visit Quad Cities is, how do you uncork that? But that's not just us. Like everybody has to like be in it together to uncork it, and you got to invest more in the marketing side and the advertising side, and you got to, on the sales side, do all of these things to get people here. And then you have to have the demand generators for people, because a lot of times people don't realize they're not just going to come. You got to figure out what are the ways to entice them to come here. Prime example is the TBK Bank Sports Complex right here. It's like that is a driver. And the majority of people that are coming over here are from the Chicago suburbs, right?
Yep.
So we're an affordable destination. We have a lot to offer. We're a drive-to market. There's 37 million people that live within a 6-hour radius point of the Quad Cities. That is huge competitive advantage. And when people talk about, oh, it must be so tough in Illinois and Iowa, no. The value is we can tap into resources in Des Moines, and we can tap into resources in Springfield and bring that back to one community to create a lot more value from a tourism perspective. So it's a huge opportunity for us that not a lot of communities can boast.
Well, and it's just amazing too. I was thinking back, like when I was a kid and we would have like our family from England would come visit. It'd be like, okay, what do we do? And so my dad's go-to place was always the Lock and Dam. Like if you came to stay with us, we were going to the Lock and Dam because they're at that in the 80s.
It was winter, you're looking at eagles. Bald eagles.
We did that too. But yeah, it's just amazing how much more there is now. They should come back and see us.
When I was a kid, the big thing was going to the Milan Theater. There used to be a theater in Milan, and that's the only time we ever crossed the bridge.
Yeah.
So that was the time.
I mean, but think about that. Think about the things like in that space with the Adler Theater and the Capitol Theater that's going to open up, or Codfish, or the thing, like, you know, all of these things. You start talking about that, it's unbelievably interesting as it relates to our sort of creative edge that we have here.
Yeah.
And we got a great ballet. We have an amazing, symphony. You know, we I think trend really high in the performing arts in terms of what we offer, especially for a community of our size, being less than 500,000 in population. And so I think that is another, huge opportunity for us on the marketing side to talk a lot about that, right? I mean, we do really well with events. There's over 1,000 events that happen in the Quad Cities on an annualized, basis, and some small, some large. And I think that is a great opportunity for us to showcase those, and there's a wide array of them. But I think how we sort of scale our arts-centric opportunities here are going to be huge value generators in the future.
So good. That. One of the things that I really was wanting you to unpack, which we did a little bit with the economic impact discussion and then also that tourism partnership for businesses, but what do you see as some of the key ways that like businesses can partner with one another to cheerlead the Quad Cities, maybe like through what you're doing and through other opportunities to really just kind of highlight the Quad Cities?
Well, it's a good question. I think, first and foremost, I think just like what you're doing here, it's a conversation with civic leaders like yourselves. I mean, you all are business owners. You're taking risk. You're putting, an incredible, product into the ecosystem in the Quad Cities, and we need to celebrate that, and we need to support that because, again, that authenticity is really critical. So I think it's that continued, education and advocacy for all things tourism. A lot of times people just think, oh, that just happens, or, there's some people here from outside the market. Oh, that's great. They don't understand the value of jobs. So over 8,600 some odd jobs are connected to tourism and hospitality in our marketplace alone.
That's awesome.
Secondly, there's a lot of meetings, conferences, conventions that are happening like Monday through Friday that people might not even know about. It could be something for 30 people. It could be something for 800 people. Those things are vital for small business.
Yeah, that part was so interesting, not to interrupt you there, but we just had a group of 30 people from Enterprise. Enterprise had a big convention over at the TBK, and then looking for something to do, and a whole group of them came in on a Tuesday night, and we're like, we're not normally open on Tuesdays, but we'd love to have, we do parties for that, for special events, and it just worked out great. It was great connecting with them, and it was literally people from all over the
But that's
region
huge for a small business. 30 customers is amazing.
Right, and so the power of that, and so that if people understand it, whether you're a small business owner or if you're, John Deere, that is vital. Also, I think understanding the dynamic that we need these demand generators. So when we have opportunities like, Viking River Cruise Lines, coming in last year, which was the first year, like how people, connect to those things is critically, important for us. Sports tourism continues to add a lot of value for our marketplace. You're seeing that here, and it's not just necessarily TBK. It's Vibrant Arena, our outdoor I think our outdoor story is something that we need to continue to highlight, because more and more people are looking to connect with the outdoors. And so, like, you know about the John Deere Classic. You might know about, the Bix or the marathon. But did you know that last year we had a gravel road race for gravel cycling, which continues to pop in the Midwest? And so we've got an abundance of land here. We got a great trail system. How are we investing in that? Because those events are going to continue to grow and thrive. And so you need an organization like ours to be at the forefront to understand what those things are, so we can try to bring it here. And if we can bring it here, and if it's successful, hopefully that will yield a result that's going to benefit everybody. We did $30 million in direct economic impact just from meetings and conventions alone in fiscal year 22. And the visitor economy in 2021 was like about $1.1 billion. So there's a lot of dollars that are flowing through this. But ultimately, at the end of the day, it's just, what is that story? How do you put that into a package that people can gravitate towards and hopefully connect to? The other thing too, which I think is going to be really exciting on the horizon, is thinking through, like, what do we want our community to look like in 2030 and beyond? How are we being more welcoming and inclusive? How are we trying to bring talent to connect to the Quad Cities? Like, I think this convergence of economic development and tourism, we haven't scratched the surface on that. A lot of times they can be very compartmentalized, but how are they working together? That was a big impetus for the QC That's Where campaign, and that continues to evolve. And that's also a rallying cry for Quad citizens to get them excited about what's happening here. And some of those destination development things that I was talking about in each one of our communities, you're going to see more of that, which I think is exciting, because I think if we can continue that momentum, and we have some momentum, then I think we're going to be able to leverage those to create, some, hopefully just different ways and perception about how people are thinking about the QC in a different way than maybe they ever have before. And brand perception is really important, and how you shape it is something that's not easy, and it's got to be a 365-day kind of process. And if not, then you're not doing what we've been charged to do.
I love that.
So good.
I love it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
So
No,
good.
this is fun.
So
I
good. It's
appreciate
like
y'all.
you think you know what's going on in the Quad Cities. You sit down with Dave.
Well,
and you're
there's
like,
so much
oh my
more.
goodness.
I mean, it's just
Yeah,
grown so much, and
it's
so
so
it's just
great.
a good reminder to get on your website, see what's coming up, see what you guys are doing.
Well, thank you.
So if someone wants to connect with you guys via social media, where can they do that? And also website address, so on and so forth.
So visit quadcities.com. We feel like it's a comprehensive resource for people. It's continuing to evolve and change. Any one of our social platforms, and we're on all of them, and we have a lot of fun. I think
Print.
we don't want to, we don't necessarily want to be in a mode where we're not, uncorking that personality. It's one of our values, and that's not just like our team. It's the personality of our community. We want to show that quirkiness, and so whether that's on platforms like TikTok or TikTok or TikTok or podcast or Facebook, Instagram, like all of these things, LinkedIn, which has a special sort of charge to it as well. So how do these people connect with that? And then that content that we're pushing out is so diversified, and it is so much in terms of like what we're generating, but it's hopefully something that's creating this meaningful like dialogue of people to go, okay, like I can connect with that. I love the Quad Cities. Here are ways that maybe I can leverage off of that and tag that and do the things that we want to try to do to move the community forward. And that's really what we're trying to do.
Awesome.
I love it.
Awesome.
Well, thank you guys.
Thanks,
Thank
Dave.
Good to see you.
Yeah.
Appreciate the time very much.
Yeah, you
Always
bet.
good to see you.
Well, hey, everybody, thanks for watching and listening to this week's episode of Buttercupp at Home. Make sure you like, subscribe, and comment. We'd love to hear from you, and we'll see you next time.